Shalom, everybody, and welcome to the Yishai Fleisher Show, broadcasting live from Judea to the world. You're a part of it wherever you are. Shalom to Malka Fleisher.
Hi, Yishai. How you doing?
Baruch Hashem, as good as this time allows, this challenging time. Malka, we have a great show for everybody today to get strength about the continuing a fight for, the struggle for the land of Israel and the return of the Jewish people to the land of Israel. We have a great show. We have a throwback. We're going to play a little bit of the famous, well, he wasn't famous. He was a little bit famous in our circles, but he was from the famous ENTEBBE mission. Today is July 4th. I'm recording on July 4th. And July 4th marks
American Independence Day. Happy Independence Day, Americans.
Right. On the one hand, it's American independence. On the other hand, it's the independence that 102 hostages received in 1976 from the ENTEBBE capture, then the ENTEBBE abduction. The abduction to ENTEBBE and the famous mission, the Thunderbolt mission, the Miftzai Yonatan, the Jonathan mission, in which these people were liberated with the Sayeret Makal force. So that it was also on July 4th, 1976. So today on my YouTube channel, I played the story of the interview that I did with one of the
rescuers,
one of the commandos that went down there and rescued these Jews. So that's something we're going to have in the show. It's
Shai Ish Shalom,
and he passed away this year.
Shalom.
That's right. So I wanted to play his story again. So that's one, and then we're going to have a very beautiful thing about King David with myself and Zev Warstein. And we have something special from, of course, Ben Bresky. So we have a lot of very interesting content coming up on the show today. But you asked me how I'm doing, and I'm telling you, like, on the one hand, today I had a special day because it was my birthday.
Mazal Tov.
Thank you very much. And I spent it really at work and in Hebron and in a little bit of solitude as well. As
was your choice. It's not like we locked you in the dungeon for your birthday.
No. You made me a humongous meat sandwich.
That's right, I did.
It was awesome.
Birthday meat sandwich.
I've been finding that on these days, it's very hot this summer.
Very hot.
I've been finding that like at about sometime like 2 or 3 or 4 o'clock, I have to go into my office, turn on the AC. Like I'm outside. I'm outside the whole time. And then about 2 or 3 or 4, I have to go into my office, turn on the AC, and just cool down, maybe lie down.
Wow.
Like maybe like even watch a little TV, just chill out a little bit. And then I get back out there.
Wow.
But I need like an hour, sometimes an hour and a half to just like let the heat come down off the brain.
There's a lot of kinds of heat out there.
Right, there's a lot of kinds of heat. So I ate that big sandwich that you made for me. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
And I was able to get back out there for some more work. There was a lot of people today at the Tomb of the Mamas and Papas, including a huge girls' camp, high school girls' camp, American high school girls' camp called Kedma.
Nice.
Just a huge group. There's one of those pictures that I take of like...
That's cool that American Jewish girls came to Israel this summer.
And to Hebron.
That's nice.
And to Hebron.
Good for them.
And they came with joy. And this was one of their first stops. They came on Monday.
Wow.
I was like, just there's things that give you joy. Although there was also a group that came right before them. I was having such a nice day, but since it's that kind of time, there was something that had to give me a little zet, a little shtuch, a little puncture, a little what's it?
Boo-boo, ouchie.
What do we call it? Kutz in English, Malcolm?
Thorn.
A little thorn, And there was a group from one of these left-leaning American Jewish organizations, and they were just saying such ridiculous things. And I felt bad because I felt like they're being abducted themselves by these evil teachers teaching them untruths. Malka, when we think about Gaza, we think about Jews being abducted there.
Yes.
We forget that there's one more thing that's being abducted in the first place.
Right.
That's the land of Israel itself.
Yep.
Land of Israel itself is abducted by Hamas.
Right. It has to live with this like disgustingness inside of it and on top of it and underneath it.
It's awful.
Yeah.
It's awful. It's awful. And
horrible
so and when you
culture.
see somebody teaching a pro-Jewish, a pro-Hamas Jewish opinion, it's just like it took me some time to deal with, just process that annoyingness.
Today on Instagram, I saw Hillel Fuld, the famous Israel advocate, and a friend of ours. He put up a video of this baby that was dressed in like Hamas gear with a keffiyeh and a little green headband, and it was just learning to crawl, like it was a crawling baby. So they had it crawling on the floor, and they strapped a little toy gun to its back, so it looked like a soldier that was like crawling through the field. And this is what we're talking about. We're talking about people who glorify turning little newly born crawling babies into zombie hordes against the Jews in Israel.
This is what we have to know about human beings.
Like, who could support that, though? When you talk about human beings...
No, because they don't support that, Malka. They don't support that.
But they do
But they also don't support the occupation and all that kind of... No. They justify to themselves. Here's something that we all have to understand. The human mind is a programmable disk. It is programmable. And erasing it is not easy once you've programmed it. It's not easy.
I think that doesn't the Gemara or somewhere talk about that a person is like a white piece of paper, and that when you do averas and then you have to make tshuva, it's like erasing the paper. Don't you know something like that? Have you heard something like that?
Well, Elisha Ben Abuya says that teaching old people is like teaching an erased paper.
An erased paper,
but
right.
The bottom line is it's very hard to unteach garbage. That's why, by the way, people like Musab Hassan Yusuf are greats, because he really was brainwashed.
He totally
and
broke
to come out of that
right.
is just
it's a real act of, it's a miracle. And it's an act of heroism.
Right.
Yeah.
It's something very special. So that's one. Okay, Malka. Just another thing that was a thorn was that yet another Israeli soldier was killed today, and it was interesting what happened. This week was a tragic situation, a horrific situation where there was this stabber in Carmiel, and he was stabbing these two soldiers, and one soldier was able to release himself and shoot the terrorist, but later he died. And our son, Elazar, was specifically praying for him.
Right.
To make it through.
Right, and he did not.
And he did not. That's the horrible thing about these stab wounds, is that like you're
it's
still
hard to control the bleeding. Yeah.
Right, you're still okay for a while, and then later on you're dying from it. So and there's a horrific video. And our poor son Elazar, like for some reason he took it upon himself to pray for for this guy to survive, and then he died. And it was
like a double heartbreak.
Yeah, it was just a double heartbreak, and that's really and you're raising kids in this time, and it's so funny because we have a daughter also that like went to surf camp this week in Ashkelon,
right?
And so Ashkelon, that's the next town north of Gaza.
She said she heard booms during her surfing.
Of course. And it's just like we live in this,
and they have to
reality.
they have to grow up in this reality of like trying to be kids and to have fun. And we purposefully sent them to surf camp and to other camps and to go have fun and to live. We want them to grow up as happy, healthy children, and yet we don't hide the reality from them at the same time. And it's sort of beautiful, frankly, to watch the like elegance with which they incorporate these two realities into their lives, but it's also very painful. The thing most people want most is to protect their children and shield them from the harsh, grisly ugliness that can happen in the world, and we're not able to do that.
I think that this is a great segue into playing my interview with Shai Shalom.
Okay.
Because in many ways, you'll hear in his voice, he's a man who grew up in the shadow of the Holocaust and decided to become a fighter that would fulfill never again. This guy is not Rambo, although he is Rambo, but his neshama, his soul, comes out of like the real
Ish
wish.
Shalom, a person of peace.
Yeah, and when I heard that he passed away a few months ago, I knew that a special soul had left this world. And all right, let's take a listen to this, to my intro, and then my interview with Shai Shalom, one of the great physical heroes of Israel, a fighter for the freedom and defense of the Jewish people, and one who not only actually I do it in the intro as well, but not only did he fight for Israel, he also kept teaching the art of fighting for many, many years. Here's Shai Shalom.
Hey, happy July 4th to those who are celebrating. Mazal Tov to American independence. Here in Israel, we also celebrate July 4th, but in a different way. We celebrate the miracle of July 4th, 1976. Operation ENTEBBE, operation later not known as Yonatan, also known as Operation Thunderbolt. But basically, this operation was when 102 hostages were rescued after an Air France airplane was taken hostage and brought to Entebbe, Uganda. And then Israeli commandos from the Sayeret Matkal unit, together with paratroopers, flew down there in Hercules, C-130s, and did a daring operation. That operation was one that showed the long hand of the IDF, and it also was, of course, miraculous. And not all operations go as smoothly as that, although, of course, Yoni Netanyahu was killed in that operation, and so were some hostages in the end. But still, overall, it was a tremendous blessing and success. And we remember that as one of the miraculous moments when God really protected the Jewish people and saved the Jewish people and taught the world that the Jewish people's blood is not going to be cheap. About 10 years ago, I had a chance to interview one of the members of that elite commando unit. His name was Shai Shalom. I interviewed him at the Caliber 3 anti-terror and gun range, school and gun range in Judea. And this was one interview that really, it touched my heart. And I thought that this year, in the year that he has passed away, this man is no longer with us, Shai Shalom, a true Israeli hero. I thought that this July 4th is a great opportunity to see that video again and to remember this great hero and to hear the voice of a true reincarnated biblical figure, Shai Ish Shalom. Shai means present, and Ish Shalom means man of peace. And yet this man was also a warrior. And not only was he a warrior in his youth, he continued to teach the art of Judean war for Jewish people to be strong against their enemies. So here is my July 4th present to you, the memory of a great Israeli warrior, Shai Shalom, who took part in the daring Entebbe rescue.
We're going to hear an interview now with one of the people who was a young soldier from Sayeret Matkal, the elite Israeli unit, who actually took part in the operation. And this interview took place itself in a fascinating place, not all the way out in Uganda, but in the foothills of Efrat at a fantastic tactical range where it's a self-defense school, a shooting school, a first responders anti-terrorist school. And this man that you're going to hear from is an instructor there at this range called Caliber 3.
All right, folks, I am here at Caliber 3 on the outskirts of Efrat. This is one of Israel's premier security training institutions. It is for civilian and military and paramilitary, i.e. security teams in Judea and Samaria. This is where they get the best training. Everything from how to use weapons, how to defend oneself, hand-to-hand combat, and really getting what we call in Israel liot miktsui, to be professional, to really professionalize the abilities, because response times are measured in nanoseconds and not in minutes and not in a long time to aim. They're measured at super quick intervals between the terrorist getting the best of you or you getting the best of a terrorist. We have an expression in Judaism that says, Hakam le'ogecha shkem le'ogo, he who arises to kill you, you get up just a little bit earlier to get them first. And I'm standing here with a man who is one of Israel's very best, and that makes him one of the world's very best, counter-terrorist security trainers, who himself has a long past in security forces, special operations, has been injured many times in the line of duty for Israel. And his name is, paradoxically and humorously, Shai Ish Shalom. His family name means a man of peace. And I'm sure that to him, there's no contradiction, there's no paradox, because being ready for war lets you be peaceful, or wanting peace comes with being prepared for war. Shai Shalom, a few minutes about yourself. To tell us about how does a person, an Israeli, And that's what you are very much to me, an Israeli. How does an Israeli come about to become one of the world's best security experts? Where does that come in the Israeli soul?
My generation grew up after the Holocaust. My generation grew up while Arab countries and terrorists and armies surrounded us, and we were very insecure. Meaning, when I reached the army, and it was after Yom Kippur War, 73, the notion of a kibbutz, remember, kibbutz, that my father founded Hanita at the age of 38. I remember one of the Holocaust days, Memorial Days, when I'm feeling very, very, very blue. Every Holocaust day. Why? Because I feel that's something to remember. That's something that I must avoid with all my essence from happening again. And I remember in the elite unit I served, sitting in the tent in a very, very difficult, after very difficult training, very blue like I always am, but I see my members quite the same. Nobody was talking about it before. And I asked one of my mates, Ami, what's going on? He said, no, everything's okay. No, you're blue. No, I'm fine. So I initiated saying, I'm blue because this is the Holocaust Day and I joined Sayeret Matkal only because this will not happen again to the Jewish people as long as I can contribute my best. And he said, I was ashamed to talk about it, but the same, and all the people around said the same. This is the essence. Meaning, any person who admits to be Jewish, doesn't matter religious, this kind or this kind, non-religious, but Israel he cares for. If anybody shoots now from here, you know where will I be? I'll be getting the bullet for you, because this is my essence. Now we must train best in order to, when you reach the real time, your ability drops within 40 to 60% to your best ability in training. So train hard because you are going to drop very, very low. Speaking about Caliber 3, this is one of the 6 schools for security authorized by the Israeli police and Israeli army and the Israeli special forces to train very specialized bodies. We are all coming from the battlefields. Some of us are high rank like me. I'm a colonel, Sharon is a colonel, and I'm already old. I'm not in the army anymore. In my time, it's tzionut, as I called, to take a guy, Rafi, and make him in 6 days a good security, a proper security guard. And I give him my heart, it will ache him. I'm going to beat him up. I'm going to put him on the ground. I'm going up just for him when and if the time comes, I know I gave him my best. This is tzionut. All of us feel bad when anything happens involving Israeli forces and we did not participate in. And we know that it can bring us to die. And we're willing to die. Meaning we're not taking the step to get into dangerous action on the whole. No, if it deserves me getting hurt or no, this I did not know. We know that's what it takes. So we're ready to take it.
So one of the many battlefields that you experienced was the famous ENTEBBE battle. There are stories that you can tell us, and there are stories you can't tell us. But you were part of the unit that had the great audacity to fly halfway around the world and to rescue those hostages that had been taken a week before. It happens to be that I was born on the day that it was taken, and my brit was on the day of your operation. And I just want to ask you for a few words. I know you can't talk about everything, and I know that you had only your perspective on the battle, but just a few words about that, because for so many of us, it is not only is it a ray of hope, but it says that the state of Israel will protect the Jewish people around the world. That's the message of ENTEBBE. What can you tell me about what you remember?
Look, the terrorists started at the early 70s after the Munich 72 Olympics. They started to hijack planes. At the beginning, they intended to hijack planes and lefotzetz, to explode them over Tel Aviv, over Jerusalem, to make. Then they started. They can't make it. They started to hijack planes in order to ask things, okay, to demands. After Sabena, what they did here, and they landed here, they hijacked this plane of Air France and hijacked it to Entebbe. Now, you probably know that Uganda was the best friend of Israel about 5 years before. They trained with us, we trained them there, we made their agriculture, we made their hospital, they graduated our universities and so on, and then Idi Amin, something evolved and he decided that we are his enemies. Okay. I remember on the day of the hijack, I told some of my mates, this is the time for us to make plans. This is the time. And I was just a junior, nothing. And apparently they did. Now, it wasn't an operation of one unit. There were 4 units, each one on other device. There was only one stage very dangerous in that operation, namely 2. This was the time when the planes with the warriors were not covered by Israeli planes. 20 minutes from Nairobi to Entebbe. Of course, Matkal was in charge of the main thing of taking the hostages, freeing the hostages. There was more fuss with this force, with the new terminal. There was Wisagi and Matan on the Air Force Base and so on. So some of us came by the plane, some of us came with the Mossad, doesn't matter, and we carried it out, and no vanity, no sense of I'm better than anybody else and so on. We just did what we did because, as I said before, I'm willing to give my life for you, even though I don't know you, because this is my nature. That's what I'm getting paid for. Okay, that's my... So it was very narrow. Everyone had only a narrow perspective. I know that my time freeing hostages, nothing really exciting. Nothing I can say, okay, now I'll see. We came in, we did our job, we were accurate. 99% of the success of this operation lies within luck. Within luck, not because we're good. It could easily be catastrophic. But as a Jew, we're willing to take the risk because we won't let any Holocaust happen again. This is all I can say.
That was 1976. Today is 2012. There's a lot of people that come here from all over the world. A lot of Jews that come here from the diaspora. And within a few minutes, few hours, they get to feeling that they're more Israeli, that they're more able to defend themselves, which is part of the ethos of Zionism. And it gives them a sense that they're part of the story more, that they can defend themselves like they haven't been able to in maybe 2,000 years. That's the last thing I want to ask you about. What does that feel like to you? From Entebbe to today, 2012, here working at Caliber 3, giving people that confidence, that firepower to be a Jew in the land of Israel.
I think that you're confusing something. When Israel was counting very few Jews, everyone knew someone who knew you. Meaning, there was no way that you could say, okay, I won't do it and nobody knows. Everybody knew. So we had to be very... Now it's our fault. We took our children and said, okay, I had such a bad time, not bad time, such a tough time. Let's לחסוך את זה ממנו. How will I say it?
Let's keep it away from them.
Yeah. So that's what we do. We accuse him and him and him and him, and we don't let our children cope. Now, when they have to cope, they don't know how to do it because we always covered for them. So when I'm here and I'm taking the youngsters and showing them it's their responsibility and be tough, nobody will come for your rescue, only yourself. No father, no mother, you. And when a tourist come and I'm telling him from the States, from France, from wherever, telling him, are you feeling risky? We're under risk. Either you leave the place and come here because here it's safe. Either you start organizing your people in order to feel safe there. But don't cry. Don't cry. It's your choice, nobody else's. So my part and our part is to let a Jew or every human being be a human being and take responsibility for his existence. Me, I'm not aggressive. I love people, I love music, I love children, I love everything. Why? Because I don't need it. In my toolbox, there lies the aggressiveness. As soon as I need it, in no time I have it. I don't need it. Once I don't have it, I'm afraid to use it. I'm going to either not use it when necessary, either use it when not necessary. So I'm trying to teach people to get set, to get into aggressiveness when needed in order to save lives, not more than that. So the tourists from the diaspora come in. First of all, you must know it's safe here for Jews. You must know the safest place on earth for Jews. But if you want to be a Jew and be in the diaspora and you don't feel safe, make it safe for yourself. And it's easy to do. Easy to do. Either or come here.
Shai, Shalom, from Sayeret Matkal to Caliber 3, 57 years old. You already have children also in special units here in the Army.
And one grandchild.
Mazal Tov, and thank you so much for all you do.
Toda lachem, and may we see you only in good times.
All right, folks, I hope you enjoyed Shai Shalom, and may his memory be a blessing. He has since this video passed away just in the last year, and we miss him. We miss him at the Caliber 3 anti-terror school and gun range. I miss his education, his teachings, and that voice, that special Israeli voice. Folks, if you want to hear more of that Israeli voice, the voice of a strong Judean people, the strong of Hashem, God of Israel, strengthening the Jewish people, then tune into Yishai Fleisher TV. Subscribe, be part of it. Write me an email, yishai@yishaifleisher.com, and I'm sending you blessings from the land of blessings, and shalom.
What a legend, huh?
Wow. Yeah.
Legendary.
Legendary. And you know, that spirit of valor and the readiness to do anything and everything for a fellow Jew is so still alive today. These soldiers who are out there in the fields today, that you meet them and you talk to them and you see the videos of them and understand what their motivations are. And I am not talking, unfortunately, very, very unfortunately, about the upper echelons who I wish that I could say I thought held those same values. But they hold these values that they are ready to do it all. And I think that if they had wings, they would fly. They are so excited by the mandate on their shoulders, and they're ready to do what they need to do for the Jewish people. We salute them so much. And Shai Shalom, his story is really such a classic Israeli story, such a classic modern Jew story. And I can only pray that we can unite around the same new old values that motivated Shai Shalom.
You know, one thing I really liked about Shai Shalom is that he came to teach in Judea.
Right.
I don't know if that was a coincidence or not, but here's a guy from that secular world who came to teach really the religious world. And I appreciated that. I appreciate that he came to us and he identified in us that fighting spirit. As we're recording this show, Malka, just a piece of information that came into my phone right now is that Eyal Mimran, 20 years old from Nes Ziona, a fighter in the 101st Paratrooper Division, fell today in Shajaiya.
Yes.
And so I didn't even see that till now. And so
that is already listed here. Yes, it's very it's such a, and you look at the faces. There's a website that the IDF keeps a list of all the soldiers who fell in battle in this war. So far, we have 679, and that should be the last of them. And I want to read, Yishai, some of the names of some of the boys who gave their lives for us just since the last time we recorded this show. Okay? Eyal Mimran, Itai Galea, Ro'i Miller, Eli Elisha Lugasi, Alexander Yakiminsky. That's the one who was killed in the stabbing, Yishai, and who fought and bravely
killed the
eliminated the terrorist.
Yeah.
And then succumbed to his wounds. Nadav Elchanan Nuller, Eyal Avnion, Yehuda Ghetto, Ori Yitzchak Chadad, Yair Avitan. I'm not done. I'm just flipping the page. Yakir Shmuel, Eyal Shines, Alon Sakagio, and they found that's basically the list. That's basically the list of people that have died just since we recorded the last show. And it's so, when we're talking about 679 people, it's like, this is not the first time we've experienced the falling of our brethren in the land of Israel.
Mm-hmm.
Usually, and it's sick as I see myself saying this word usually, it's sick that I even have to say the word usually, as if there's a usually about how we deal with Jews getting picked off by terrorists, okay? But apparently there is, all right? So usually when stuff like this happens and one person is killed, everything stops and it's a national tragedy and oh my gosh, and everyone stops and thinks about it for a second and that person's photo's in the news. And there's a national discussion about it. Even it might not be days and days, but even for a couple hours, there's the news circulates around it, right? For a little bit, it's a moment. And the pace at which we are losing our beautiful sons, brothers, husbands is so fast that we can't even barely do that. It's very painful. I got to tell you, it's very painful. And you look at the faces of these people. You know, Yishai, we're going to be going with God's help. And who knows? Because who knows every single day what the news is going to look like and whether you're going to get called into the army or I don't know what. But the plan is that we're going to go to the United States for a little bit, for like 2.5 weeks this summer, to see family before our son's bar mitzvah. And I'm a little nervous. I'll be totally honest with you. Now, I know that American Jews...
Nervous about what?
I know that American Jews, I feel very much that American Jews are with us and they feel so deeply the desire to connect. And so many people have come to Israel to try to volunteer, and Hashem only knows how much money and time they've given and how many prayers and how many tears. I really, really deeply, profoundly do not want to minimize that at all. But when I'm nervous about going to America and feeling like I live on a different planet from where I am. Do you know what I'm saying? And I'm worried also about, even for a second, feeling like I'm not in the experience of the struggle that my people are going through here. And that I'm like off, like at a water park or something, and my people are struggling.
So I got good news for you, which is it's a 2-week trip.
Yeah.
Don't worry about it. It's fine. You can take off 2 weeks, do what you got to do in America.
But what is taking off 2 weeks?
It means it's not taking off. It means you got to go see your family. That's part of life. You got to speaking gigs. It's part of life. And it's part of what Israel needs. You got to do a little shopping so you bring stuff back to the land of Israel. It's good. Meaning to say, don't worry. You do your 2 weeks. You fly out, take care of your business, see your family, see our son's great-grandmother, do the business. And you don't worry, 2 weeks later, you're back home and you're still fighting. I know. I'm telling you because I'm talking from experience. I fly out. A lot of times I miss something. It's okay. You know, the show goes on. The show goes on. We got to do this thing for our family. And if we have 5 minutes of like mental calmness, some kind of like worldly pleasure.
Right. May it only be to recharge so that we can come back strong.
Exactly. It's exactly right. It's exactly right. All right. Speaking of recharging to come back strong, I've got a section now which I'm very proud of. This is something that I filmed together with my good friend Zev Warstein from City of David. We were in a very special place, and that place led us to think about King David. And King David, for people like Zev Warstein and myself, King David's very much alive. So here is a special segment. It's going to come out in video next week of myself and Zev Warstein talking about the legacy and the life and the continued inspiration of King David that we have in this world. Here we go. All right, I'm here with my good friend Zev Warstein, one of the directors of the City of David. And we're not in the City of David. We're not in Yerushalayim. We're not in Hebron. We're actually in a place called Tel Azekah over Emek HaElah, the Elah Valley. This is where King David fought the famous battle with Goliath, with Goliath, as we say in Hebrew. And this was an amazing battle. Zev, thank you so much for joining me here in this beautiful place.
Thanks for joining me here.
So there's really two ways that we could see the story of King David's battle, this epic battle with Goliath. One way is the classic way that you're going to see in Judaism, in the Jewish religion. You're going to see it that the way the text seems to indicate is that when faced with insurmountable odds, King David courageously did not accept the shields and armors of King Saul, and he went out to meet Goliath in the field, and he called out in the name of God, and he says, "You come to me with sticks and armor, I come to you in the name of God." And then he fells him, he slays him using these rocks that he picks up here from the Elah Valley. So that's like the kind of religious way of seeing it, the God way. What do you think about that?
I think that is a Jewish way of viewing it, but not the Jewish way of viewing it. I think there's another Jewish way, or biblical way, to view this story.
Okay.
And it's very interesting because King David is anointed by the prophet Samuel. I think it's 1 Samuel 16. And that's it. He is going to be the next king over Israel. Great. And then the next chapter in 1 Samuel 17, Shmuel Aleph, Yud Zayin. What happens? The battle against Goliath. And what's the...
So he's already anointed?
He's anointed.
Right.
Right? He's the next king. So now Saul is still ruling. And what happens? His father, Yishai, Jesse, says to David, "Hey, your brothers are all out in the front lines, facing off against the Philistines. Go bring them some supplies." So that's what David does. He's a good son, listens to his father. And he goes out, and what does he see? He sees the camp of Israel, led by King Saul, on one mountain. You have the Philistines on the other mountain. You got the Elah Valley right in between.
And that's where we are right now. We're looking at it right now.
That's right, right over here. And what happens? David sees this giant, Goliath. Right, they say he's 9 feet tall, 10 feet tall, huge guy.
And a warrior from his youth.
Yeah, warrior.
He's like a serious man of war.
And he comes out, and it says for 40 days and 40 nights, Jewish tradition says he would come out specifically in the morning and the nighttime. Why at those times? To taunt Israel.
During the times of Kriya Shema.
Right, the time when the Jewish people are meant to recognize the oneness of God, to say the very famous prayer, the Shema Yisrael, the Hero Israel, the Lord is our God, the Lord is one. At that moment, when the Jewish people are saying that prayer, recognizing the oneness of God, Goliath would come out and taunt the people and say, "Who's going to fight me?"
Right.
No one would come out. They're afraid. In a certain sense, they're more afraid of Goliath than they are of God.
Right. And he taunted God as well. He's
That's
basically
right.
like, you guys are losers and your God is a loser.
That's right.
Right.
Or your God is a loser and you guys are losers.
Right.
Either way, you're all
Right.
losers.
Right.
And you know what? He was right. Because no one, for 40 days, 40 nights, no one is willing to come out. David comes along and he hears this. And just like Moses in the Exodus story, when he leaves the palace and he sees the Egyptian taskmaster beating the Hebrew slave, and it says that Moses, he looks around and he sees that there were no people. Now, what does that mean? And one of the answers is he can't believe. Here in open daylight, in Egyptian society, the most advanced, enlightened society in the whole world, what, you could just beat a person in the middle of the street and nobody cares?
Right.
That's right. And Moses acts. David comes along and he can't believe. How could it be that this, as he calls him, an uncircumcised Philistine, how could he go and mock the name of the living God of Israel? And no one's doing anything. So he starts asking around. He says, well, what happens if someone goes out to fight? And people say, well, the king said, if you go and defeat Goliath, you are going to get to marry his daughter.
All right, that's a good prize.
Right.
Okay, so you get 2 in 1, right? You get to defeat this guy who's defaming God publicly. You get to defend Israel, and you get to marry the king's daughter. That sounds good.
It's a promotion.
Good deal. The only problem is you might end up dead.
That's true.
Right.
It's a big risk, although it seemed like at that point they were going to end up dead anyway, right? And so what happens? David's like, I'm going to do it. Okay, so far everything that we've set up until now fits in with what you said is the Jewish way of looking at it. Because why is he willing?
A faith way.
Right. Why is he willing to do it? Well, God is with him. He's the anointed of God. Of course it's going to work out for him. And yet what? David goes and he's brought before Saul, Shaul HaMelech, King Saul. And Saul, interrogates him. He's like, really? Are you serious? This isn't a joke? He said, no, I'm willing to do it.
You're just a kid.
Right? But he's like, I fought the lion and the bear. I could do this. I have experience.
I have experience fighting. Okay.
And so what happens? They say, bring me, he says, bring him my armor.
Saul says
Right.
to his men, bring armor for King David.
Now, the Bible describes what Saul looks like, and it describes what David looks like. They are very not the same.
Right.
Saul is big, broad, strong, stocky. David is much smaller, and they put the armor on to David. And David says, I can't wear this. You got to take this off, right? This is not for me.
Right.
Now, why does he say that?
Okay, so I guess there's one way to read it is I don't need this stuff. I'm with God. I'm spiritual. I'm relying on God. I don't need all this extra stuff on me.
That's one way.
Right.
Right? What's another way? What does David understand? If the battle comes down to armor, David lost already.
Right.
If it's going to come down to who's going to strike who stronger and shields and armor, forget it. He's going to get crushed like a bug. What does David understand? He has 2 advantages that he's going to use in his battle against Goliath, which is speed and distance. So what happens? David, he's like, I don't want the armor, because armor's going to slow him down. Right? He's already thinking. He says, it's true, God may be with me, and I may believe that I'm doing what God wants of me. But at no point in this whole story does God ever say to David, don't worry, I'm with you, you got this, everything's going to work out fine. Right. David has to come up with a real plan. And so he says, I don't want the armor. And as he goes out to meet Goliath, what does he do? He says he bends down, picks up some stones, right? Okay. David is about to become...
He's going to bend down, pick up a stone, all right?
He is about to become the
this
original...
Is a small one.
It's much bigger.
There's bigger stones, like baseball-sized stones.
Yeah, and Malcolm Gladwell says that in his book, David and Goliath, that this stone that David's going to shoot from his slingshot is going well over 100 miles an hour.
Right, and if you ever pick one of these things up, it is... You're like, if I hit somebody in the head with this thing, I'm cracking a head open. This thing is serious.
And back then, it was a skill. Like, you could, from a distance, you could be a sharpshooter. Right. David is the original Judean sniper. Right. He's like, I'm not getting anywhere near Goliath. I'm not going to be near his sword. I'm not going to be near his javelin. I'm not going to be near his anything. Right. I'm going to stay far, far away. He comes down, picks up the stones, and from a distance, you have the taunting. Goliath is taunting David.
But David doesn't say to him, I'm coming to you with superior technology.
That's right.
He says to him, I'm coming to you in the name of God.
But
God, Lord of hosts.
For sure. Everything David does is in the name of God. But he acts as if, there's a saying, pray as if everything depends on God. Act as if everything depends on you. And so David understands everything he's doing is in the honor of and the name of God. He is preventing the worst thing that you could have happen from a Jewish perspective is Chilul Hashem, a desecration of God's name. The prophet Ezekiel talks about why does God bring Israel back to the land of Israel? He says, not because we were so worthy of it. He says, but for the sake of his great name, that when the Jewish people are oppressed, it's a desecration of God's name.
That's right.
And therefore, David recognized that there was a Chilul Hashem. There was a desecration of God's name that was happening. And so David is acting to sanctify God's name. But still, he's living in a world where there are laws of combat, laws of physics, and so on, and he has to work within those laws.
And not only that, he was actually a newer iteration, a newer version. The single combat type war, where Goliath seemed to have an advantage, was the older version. Slow, mechanized, heavy, armed. This was there's a term that Malcolm Gladwell uses, like he's a shooter. He's got a slingshot. He's got like
He's a sniper.
Right, he's right, exactly.
He's a sniper. He
Right.
stays far away. He takes out Goliath from very, very, a distance where Goliath could never reach him. All Goliath does is shout at David.
Right.
But that's it. And David.
He fires no shots.
That's right.
There's never contact.
Because David takes him out well before. Now, what happens next?
Wait, but before we get to next, and I want to get to next, to me, in many ways, both are true. The faith side and the new technology side. And the greatest proof for me for that way of thinking is modern day Israel, where it has a miraculous side and it has a high-tech side. Both are true. When you go totally faith, and you don't have tech, well, you're kind of talking in air. But when you're all tech and you're not talking about God, that's also failure. When you rely on technology too much.
Right. What we see this in the Bible, and I think we see it in modern times. The worst thing, the thing that we're warned to be careful against, is to believe that in my might and in my glory, kolchi v'otzem yadi, that I have this victory.
Right.
And we were warned by Moses about that, and I think it's a warning that is still important to take to heart to this day, that to not think, well, because we have all of our intelligence and our military and that you know what, we're good. Like we don't need to have any spiritual assistance. And so the model, as you're saying, is yes, David has faith, and yes, David uses the technology, and he's a warrior. The uniqueness of David is he puts them together.
Right.
He gives all the credit for what he does to God. He says, I'm fighting for God. Right. And yet he goes, and in the real world, he uses the technology of that world.
And the more advanced technology.
That's
right. He's ahead of the curve in terms of technology. So he's using both of those at the same time. And that's what's so important. Some people say that one of the failures that Israel had in the Yom Kippur War and maybe in the October 7th attack is too much of a reliance on technology without, maybe common sense, without open your eyes. But the bottom line is, we need both of those elements to work for Israel. Israel's a tiny country in this region. It's an armed ethnic minority. We have a lot of enemies right now surrounding us. So we need God. And that's the only way this country is going to survive. But of course, at the same time, Israel's famous for being always up on the latest technology and using it from intelligence to tanks to drones to all these things. We need both of those things operating at the same time. And so we can't lose track of that. How do you maintain that balance, I guess? I guess that's the Davidic balance.
Right. Now, what's the connection of this place to Jerusalem?
All right.
What happens? David goes, he kills Goliath. Now, what does he do after he kills Goliath?
He takes his head.
He chops off his head. He takes Goliath's sword, cuts off his head.
Right. Excalibur.
What does he do with the head?
Does he bring it to Jerusalem?
So he takes the head, goes out to the Jebusite-controlled city that will later become known the city of David, Ir David, and he takes that head and he puts it on a giant spike outside the walls of the city. Now, David...
It doesn't sound like there's two messages here. It's pretty clear to me.
So David is not going to conquer Jerusalem for a bunch of years still, probably close to a decade.
Wow.
So why is David taking the head of Goliath to Jerusalem? What's the message? And the answer, again, is this combination. On the one hand, if David is going to become king one day, as God told him he would, and if he's going to make Jerusalem his capital, of course, God's going to be in it. But David understands he has to work in this world. Why does he take that head and put it outside the walls of the future city of David? Psychological warfare. Right. He's saying, hey, you Jebusites, this is Goliath.
That's right.
I killed him.
I defeated him.
You guys are next.
Right.
Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but I'm coming. Right? He's already planting seeds that he is going to come and conquer the city. When you come to the whole story, 2 Samuel chapter 5, how does David conquer Jerusalem? Again, he has to come up with very, let's call it, human means to conquer Jerusalem. Of course, God wants him to conquer Jerusalem. We know that. And yet at the same time, he has to come up with a real plan. The Canaanites who are in the city, they're taunting David. They're like, we could put our blind and our lame on the walls of the city, and you still won't be able to conquer it. And you know what? They were right, because David does not go over the walls of Jerusalem. He he has to come up with some, what I call the original Navy SEALs,
Right.
and some subterranean secret mission, penetrate the city from within.
Sayeret Makal.
Yeah, Bidiyuk, exactly. So David is this balance of, yes, everything for the honor of God.
Right.
Working, though, without relying on miracles. David, actually, it's kind of surprising. You almost don't see any miracles directly associated with David.
That's right.
And the book is, before him, after him, lots of miracles.
Right.
All of a sudden, David comes, there's no miracles.
Right.
Right? And yet David all the time is speaking of his relationship with God.
In many ways, this world is a miracle. The technology and the new knowledge, that is a miracle. Using what's around you, being able to see that God created this world, and that is the miracle, and to actualize that in this world, that is the miracle. In many ways, God prefers to stay a little bit anonymous, and that you recognize him without him showing up totally. Like overt miracles are considered less good. The best are where you use the regular world, which is already miracle enough, and then say, it was God. It was God who gave me that strength. He gave me that knowledge. He gave me that idea. He gave me that technology. So that's awesome. All right, so we understand in many ways, you're giving us a sense of the personality of King David, the war that was fought right here in the Elav Valley, the combination of both faith and technology and this worldliness. And so came out a name for the Jewish people that we are the sons of David. We go in that path. We try to bring those two things together. And even though we're small, we still, because we come with those things together with latest technology and God on our side, so we're able to defeat our enemies. The enemies of Israel today, though, have flipped the narrative, have flipped the script to say that we're actually the Goliath, that we're this big stomping occupation, this big, armed thing, and that the enemies of Israel, they are the David, that this land is theirs, that God is with them, and that we're the bad guys, and we're the slow, slothful bad guys. How do you deal with that? How do you bring back David to the inheritance of Israel?
I think it's very simple, which is, it's not that the comparison is Goliath is big and David is small, and so now we're being portrayed as the big Goliath and our enemies are being portrayed as David. They're being portrayed as David because they act like David. Mm-hmm. They have made their cause one of righteousness and justice, even though it's not righteous and it's unjust. But the way they present themselves to the world is, if you want to stand on the side of justice, well, of course you have to be on the side of our enemies. And we have made ourselves out to be like, well, we're the enlightened, we're the Western, and we've stopped talking like David. And I think part of the answer is, if you want to be viewed as David, act like a David.
Right.
Right? Don't forget this model that we spoke about of, we are the Jewish people, right? And we have a mission. And we come from this land where we've been for thousands of years with a heritage that has shaped the world. Every civilization in the world has been shaped by the events that have played out here, literally, from Jerusalem, from the land of Israel, from Judea and Samaria, and embrace that. That's our gift to the world. That's our identity. And if we don't embrace that identity, well, then who are we? We're just another bunch of people that at some point will just disappear from history. Or we could connect ourselves to our ancestors, to our mission, which has been 3,000 plus years in the making, and saying, yes, this is who we are. We are the descendants of David, and we're still fighting the same enemies that he fought, not literally, but spiritually, same idea, same type of enemies, and that we are fighting for the honor of God, and for the honor of our people, and for the honor of our land.
If we could hear Israeli leaders talk like that, but we don't hear them talking, and that's why, and that's what you're saying, that right now we have this loss of narrative, loss of identity.
There's someone we both have spoken of, a guy named Donald Miller, an author, very famous author from Tennessee. And he has a saying, which I believe is very true here. When you confuse,
you lose.
You lose.
That's right.
And we're confusing the world. In 1967, when the Jewish people were turned to all the places of our homeland, our enemies surrendered before us. They're like, here, take the keys to Jerusalem, to the Temple Mount, to Hebron, to everything. Here it is. To the tomb of the patriarchs and matriarchs. Here it is. And then when we said to them, no, like, we're here, like, you could have it back. And they said, oh, like, we're sorry. We mistook you for the Jews. We thought you were the Jewish people. We thought that, all those prophecies that the Bible spoke about, like, were being fulfilled. You look like the Jews. We even talk like them a little bit. You sound like them. but clearly we're mistaken and we're really sorry. So we're just now going to take all of our stuff back because we were giving it to the Jews. And so that's who we are. And either we're going to be those people or we're not. And when we're not, when you confuse, when the world looks at us and says, well, you look like the Jews, but you don't act like the Jews. You don't actually talk about your right to this land. You talk about things like the Holocaust. You talk about things like United Nations and you don't talk about the justice of your cause. Not just in modern times, but our connection going back thousands of years, our roots in this land.
City of David is also very famous for the archaeology that you find that connects you, which corroborates the story of the Bible. But I want to take that to really three small points. You laid out a big vision for reaching back into history, talking about our narrative. I just want to make three very small points, which is one, the Bible itself is not so much of a player anymore because through modernity and maybe the enemies of Israel, the Bible has been erased as a player. And just one simple thing we have to do, and I always tell this to groups, is you got to teach the Bible. You got to learn the Bible, especially the book of Genesis, definitely the book of Samuel as well. But you got to read these things and make them part of your life. And that's a big problem. Is that a lot of the interlocutors that you have out there, young people on social media, they're not there. And so that whole footing for the Jewish people is gone. That's a problem. We've got to bring the Bible back. Number two is that Israel does have to remind people, even though I agree totally with what you said, totally, but we do have to remind people that we are the small country around here. And sometimes when it's painted that our enemies are the smaller thing, they forget the big picture. We have to remind people oftentimes that Israel is still the small country in this region, and it does have our enemies surrounding it. So it's important to sometimes take out the map. And when I was on Piers Morgan, I took out the map, and I think it had a certain impact. And number three is, a lot of times, most of the time, you never hear Israel talking about that this is the third Commonwealth. You hear that Israel was born in 1948. Well, if it was born in 1948, then it's a Johnny-come-lately thing. But if you say, listen, this is our third Commonwealth, starting with King David, who was, the first king of a united Commonwealth. Is that right? Do you agree with that phrase? Okay. So we gotta. That's a piece of narrative that has been lost. So basically, the Bible has been lost. We got to bring that back. The smallness of Israel, the reality that Israel is a small country in this region, that it has to, be tough, is number two. And number three, to say that it's the third Commonwealth, that we're an ancient people back in this land. And I would write third Commonwealth on the flag. Like, this is our third Commonwealth. That's who we are. We're not here for the first time.
I'll add a fourth, which we see from David. He thinks big, right? He's like, I'm going to unite the tribes. Right in the beginning, he's like, he's king over his tribe.
Right, Judah. He was from the tribe of Judah.
And then the other tribes come like, well, we want you to be king over all of us. He's like, great. And you know what? I'm going to unite the tribes. I'm going to have a capital. I'm going to lay the infrastructure for a future temple. David is always thinking, how do I move the nation forward? And not just be, okay, how do we have our little refuge state here and just, combat anti-Semitism. What's our vision for the world?
Right.
How are we making the world better? And we do it through technology and things like that, drip irrigation and all the technology that's used around the world. But also there's other ways that we can make the world better. I think in many ways, you look around the world, there's a lot of confusion when it comes to values, when it comes to identity, which the Jewish people are uniquely suited to contribute to. And we have yet to step into our position of being a light unto the nations, not just technologically speaking, but perhaps you could say from a values perspective as well. And I think King David was one who understood
the fusion
of
values, the faith in God and technology and modernity.
And that the state is essentially the launching pad to bring all that to the world.
Well, Zev Warstein from City of David and myself, Yishai Fleisher, are here in one of the regions of the tribe of Judah, in Tel Azekah, overlooking the valley of Elah, remembering King David and seeking inspiration for ourselves, for the state of Israel, for the Jewish people, and really, as Zev said, a light onto the world. And I hope that you feel that as well. May King David continue to reign. We say Am Yisrael Chai, we say David Melech Yisrael Chai v'Kayam. The King, David, King of Israel, is alive, and his energy continues to permeate into this world. God bless you, folks, wherever you are. David, that's right. We're from the city of David. We're in the place of David. But Zev Warstein and Yishai Fleisher blessing you. Stay tuned to this channel. Lots of love and lots of blessings. And shalom.
Shalom.
This is Yochanan from Germany. Don't worry. God bless you. All the best. Have a l'chaim. Yishai Fleisher will be right back.
All right, that was me and Zev Warstein talking about King David, and gives me a lot of that's the best part about vacationing in the land of Israel. You're still there wherever you are.
Right,
you're like
that's
touching
right.
it. But though, just so you know, Malka, when you're vacationing in Texas, there's a lot of work to do there. When you're vacationing in New Jersey, there's a lot of work to do there. You'll see there's Kiddush Hashem to do everywhere, especially when you're coming from the land of Israel. So thank you very much, Zev, for joining me for that segment. I want to thank also some of the sponsors of the show this week, especially. There's just one more day of getting your Tchelet sale. If you go to tekhelet.com, you could still get some Tchelet for your tzitzit, for your talit. You could be a true blue Jew. You could be dyed in the
Dyed in the wool.
Tchelet, dyed in the Tchelet. Part of the. You could wear the flag of Israel. You're really wearing the colors of Israel, and it does what it's supposed to do, which is it makes you part of being a congregation, a congregation of priests and a holy nation. So check out Tchelet, tekhelet.com, and to check out jewishpress.com. That puts out our show every single week, and God bless them and for their great news analysis as well, jewishpress.com. Thank you very much for High on the Har, for the folks that go up on the Temple Mount. I go to the Temple Mount. High on the Har will get you there kosherly and awesomely. And, of course, the Jewish community of Hebron. God bless you, Jewish community of Hebron. And a way to bless Hebron is to visit it. And the way to visit it is hebronfund.org.
You know, Yishai, we were talking before. We talked a lot, actually, I think, on this show about the heroism and the incredible spirit of the Jewish people. I would like to read something that really moved me that I received this week. We made a list. We read the list of soldiers who were taken from us, who died, Al Kiddush Hashem, who died fighting for the Jewish people in the land of Israel just since our last show. And I would like to read to you something that I got. It is part of the eulogy read by the mother of Ro'i Miller. Her mother, he was just 21 years old, killed in Gaza. His mother, Ariella, gave an incredible eulogy of him. And I would like to read just a little bit of it to you, because when you hear, sometimes you see people who are so great and so strong and so keyed in to the message and the spirit that Hashem always wanted from us, the kind of Jews that we were always wanting to be, then it's just really inspiring. So I just want to read a little bit of it here. Here's what she writes. Dear and beloved people, it is with sorrow that I inform you that my dear and beloved son, Ro'i, has passed away. My hero, Ro'i, chose a command path. He commanded as a platoon leader in the Tomer company of the Givati Brigade's Rotem battalion. The soldiers in the company come from religious homes. They entered Gaza singing, I believe, Ani Ma'amin. And his soldiers, like most of the fighters, both religious and secular, wear patches of the Beit HaMikdash and Mashiach, bringing the Holy Spirit into impure Gaza and purifying it. As a nation, we are now on an exodus journey, just as it was possible to enter the land of Israel from Egypt in 11 days, but the journey took 40 years. So is our journey in the small, malicious, satanic strip. This is a campaign managed only by the Creator of the world so that we unite among ourselves. We must be mutually responsible for one another, strengthen our faith in the Creator of the world, and know that there is none but Him. Ultra-Orthodox, secular, religious, we share the land of Israel together, a land that belongs to us as part of the Promised Land, and Gaza is an integral part of it. We are not a conquering people. We are returning home, returning to our roots in every sense. We are a spiritually strong nation, and we are a light to the nations because we chose to be so, and this is a mission we must uphold. We must learn from the pure soldiers what unity, shared destiny, and strong faith in the Creator of the world are. I am proud of my kind-hearted and handsome son, Ro'i, who excelled in everything, proud of his fighting spirit, his choices, and the care he showed for his soldiers and others. I called him my private redemption soldier, and he smiled his charming smile. I don't know if I can get through this. Okay, I'm going to try. I was blessed with 22 amazing years, less a week. Meaning to say he was supposed to have his birthday. The Lord gave, and the Lord has taken away. Blessed be the name of the Lord. We are in the footsteps of redemption. Put this firmly in your consciousness. God controls everything. In unity and faith, we will prevail. Captain Roe Miller's mother. Proud of you. I was blessed.
Wow.
That's a Jewish mother. That's a woman in Israel. It's the greatness of this person is immeasurable.
Well, thank you very much for reading that, Malka, and giving us a little bit of that insight. You know what? I'll tell you, I guess people come to this show to get inspiration. But I have been finding that we need to not indulge in the pain, but give the pain a place every day. And I've been wanting to light candles every day here. I light a candle. If somebody's fallen, God forbid, I light a candle. And I just, I think that there's a need to recognize where we are, the reality of where we are, not to let it consume us and slow us down, because we got to keep going. We got to keep fighting. But
to give it its respect,
give it its place.
Due place.
Yeah, give it its place. And the heroism, and to give that moment where you're like, just like, by the way, in Judaism, we have a lot of that. For example, I'm looking at my wall right now. We have a spot on the wall, which is not
left bare, right?
Left bare, that's right. So it's the same thing. It's like the we cry over the destroyed temple. We have to cry over the fallen and then keep going. But recognize the time that we are living in. But now for something completely different, our indefatigable, unstoppable, a reporter at large. His name is Ben Bresky, and today he has for us the story of Israel's very first computer. That's right. That's right. Something completely different.
Totally out of what we were just talking about.
But you know, it's part of the redemptive process. It's part of that. It riffs off last week's discussion about the golem. Okay, you'll understand why when you hear these magic words from Ben Bresky.
This is a moment in Jewish history. Last week, I talked about the golem, the legendary man made of clay and brought to life through Hebrew letters to protect the Jewish community and do things with power beyond ordinary humans. The golem lies dormant in the attic of a synagogue, and only the rabbi knows how to reactivate it. Well, the golem computer can be seen lying dormant at the Weizmann Institute of Science in Rehovot, Israel. I have seen photos of it, the massive closet-sized computer from the early 1960s with the word golem in Hebrew and English, and beside it a keyboard with letters used to activate it. This was Israel's second computer, more powerful than the original called Weizak, or Weizmann Automatic Computer, which was built in the 1950s. It too is on display at the Institute. Today, Israel is considered a leader in the high-tech industry and a pioneer in computing and software. But back in the 1950s, Israel was a new country, and the only place they could obtain parts to build Weizak was from a bicycle shop. This is the story of Israel's first computer, and includes the likes of Albert Einstein, Robert Oppenheimer, Chaim Weizmann, and 2 bicycle repairmen. The idea to build a computer in the Jewish state came from Dr. Chaim Leib Pekaris, founder of the Department of Applied Mathematics at the Weizmann Institute of Science. He was born in Lithuania, the son of a baker. He attended MIT, the Massachusetts Institute of Technology in the United States. One sibling moved to the land of Israel, one also to America, but his parents and another sibling were lost in the Holocaust. At MIT, Dr. Pekaris studied astrophysics and hydrodynamics and wrote papers on sound velocity and became interested in tectonic plates and earthquakes. He would later use the computer he helped build to research earthquake activity. He also worked at the Institute for Advanced Study in Princeton, New Jersey, where he met John von Neumann, inventor of the IAS machine, one of the first computers in the world. After the State of Israel became independent from the British in 1948, Dr. Chaim Weizmann, the president of the country and founder of the institute, recruited him. It was the idea of Dr. Pekaris to build a computer, and a committee was formed and included the aforementioned Dr. John von Neumann and 2 other people affiliated with the Institute for Advanced Study, the world-famous physicist Albert Einstein and the former director of the American Atomic Bomb Project, J. Robert Oppenheimer. Now, Albert Einstein was a strong supporter of an independent Jewish nation and even helped found Hebrew University back in the 1920s. It was Einstein who asked, "What would a small country like Israel even do with a computer, something that many established European countries did not even have?" To which John von Neumann replied, "Don't worry, if no one else uses the computer, Pekaris will use it full time." But the computer was in high demand once it was built, and building it was a challenge. Materials were not readily available. A Jewish-American husband and wife team named Gerald and Thelma Estrin, both with PhDs in electrical engineering, moved to Israel to work on the project. One problem was they needed extremely thin copper strips. After searching high and low, Estrin found what they needed at a small bicycle shop run by 2 recent immigrants from Bulgaria, who adapted their machinery for the task. The next problem was recruiting staff. Many new Israelis were refugees from war-torn Europe. Although they had advanced degrees, they did not actually have any diplomas or documents since they fled their birthplaces for freedom in the Jewish state. Estrin personally interviewed the recruits to test their knowledge. He stated, "Remarkable changes in Israel were evident. New roads, new buildings, new people, new problems. Before the start of the WISAC project, there were no digital electronic computers in Israel, no electronic digital engineers, no programmers, and no support personnel. The WISAC people succeeded in creating the technological know-how necessary for Israel to play a strong role in the information revolution." Many recruits came from countries that were quickly turning communist and were able to immigrate to Israel as scientists and mathematicians due to the project. Dr. Chaim Weitzman earmarked 20% of the Institute's total budget for the computer project, about $50,000. Finally, WISAC officially was operating by 1955. It took up an entire wall and ran on punch cards. Some newspapers called it an electronic brain. The staff called it Weizmann Automatic Computer, or WISAC. It had a memory of 40 bits, 1,024 words long, and later expanded to 4,096 words. Not much by today's standards, but quite powerful compared to the few other computers in the world. The following is from an interview with Professor Aviezri Frankel, one of the pioneers of WISAC, by Asher Tlalim.
Then in 1955 came the day where we wanted to apply voltage the first time to the computer. Black smoke billowed to the ceiling and fires broke out, and it was real fireworks, and the VIPs fled into all directions. Then we corrected everything and we turned it on without the VIPs, and it was okay.
The WISAC was used for research in applied mathematics, studying earthquakes and changes in tides. It was used to discover a certain point in the South Atlantic at which the tide does not change. It was used to calculate a 2-electron atom quantum system, and soon other institutes across Israel wanted to use the computer. The Israeli Defense Forces used it for ballistic calculations and intelligence. It was to run 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, even on Shabbat, the holy day of rest. And so, the Director General of the Ministry of Defense, Shimon Peres, recruited a Christian engineer who could operate the computer on Shabbat and Jewish holidays.
One big user was the army. Peres wanted all the time for himself. The army had, I think, 1 weekly hour. But sometimes the army needed more time. So they called up Ben-Gurion, who was the Minister of Defense. Ben-Gurion called up Meir Weisgal, who was the Chancellor of the Institute. And so at 2 or 3 in the morning, the army got an extra hour from Peres.
Dr. Pekaris went on to earn a gold medal from the Royal Astronomical Society and the Israel Prize from the State of Israel. And many of the staff on WISAC went on to brilliant careers and helped lay the foundations for Israel's future high-tech industry. Finally, after 8 years, the Weizmann Institute was ready for an upgrade. WISAC was retired and replaced with the Golem, which had a 75-bit word size compared to WISAC's 40, and the next version of the Golem was 100 times faster than the WISAC. At the dedication of the new Golem computer in 1965, the famous writer Gershom Shalom was invited to speak. Here are some excerpts about what he called the Golem of Rehovot. The Golem, a creature created by human intelligence and concentration, which is controlled by its creator and performs tasks set by him, but which at the same time may have a dangerous tendency to outgrow that control and develop destructive potentialities. I dare say the old Kabbalists would have been glad to learn of this simplification of their own system. This is progress. External beauty has been denied him. What kind of spiritual beauties lurk inside? We shall learn in due time, I hope. Whether the Golem of Prague could correct his mistakes, I doubt. The new Golem seems to be able in some ways to learn and improve himself. This makes the modern Kabbalists more successful than the ancient ones, and I may congratulate them on this score. All my days, I have been complaining that the Weizmann Institute has not mobilized the funds to build up the Institute for Experimental Demonology and Magic, which I have for so long proposed to establish there. They prefer what they call applied mathematics and its sinister possibilities to my more direct magical approach. Little did they know, when they preferred Chaim Pekaris to me, what they were letting themselves in for. So I resign myself and say to the Golem and its creator, develop peacefully and don't destroy the world. This has been a moment in Jewish history. Thank you to Yishai Fleisher. Thank you to all the listeners, and Shalom.
Okay, Ben, thank you so much for that fabulous piece, and he's really educating us about the foundations of Israel, and I appreciate that. Speaking of the foundations of Israel, Israel relies on good food. Check out prohibitionpickle.co.il for good food that you can send around Israel and help support soldiers and others through the Good Food Project of prohibitionpickle.co.il. Our good friends at koshercycletours.com. Hopefully we'll get to that tour. You will get to that tour when you're here in the land of Israel this summer. A lot of people are here this summer. It's a great way to enjoy your summer. Book a kosher cycle tour. It's koshercycletours.com. And our good folks at
Retro Watch Guy.
Retro Watch Guy. That's right. They make retro watches come back out into life, and therefore they're actually involved in a project of resurrection of the dead. That's what they're doing. They're bringing watches back to life. You can enjoy them. RetroWatchGuy.com. With that, Malka, I want to tell you that I'm so proud to be associated with good things, with Marat Machpelah, the Tomb of the Mamas and Papas, with the beautiful Hilltop Youth, best kids out there in the world, that are building up the land of Israel, and with raising Jewish people in the land of Israel. Today, and I was at Hebron, and instead of running around, I had a little bit more calm time, and I saw the people that come in and get the tours and connect to the forefathers, mothers, and I heard a father tell his daughter, he's like, this place is all about our roots and our redemption. He was just giving her the business.
That's so nice.
And I was just like, this is beautiful. This is really working. So Am Yisrael is Chai. We are fighting, and we are in a redemptive process. We're in a redemptive process we're gonna get through this process, and we're gonna beat back some of the elements of the Erev Rav, the mixed multitude, and some of the weak leadership that we are dealing with, and some of the internationals that are trying to slow us down. We're really dealing with three dark forces at the same time. There are three dark forces. One is what's called Klipat Ishmael, which is the husk of Ishmael, which is the Philistines, the so-called Palestinians, that whole husk. Then we got the Klipat Esav. That's the Euro left. That's the American, anti-Israelism, the Israel shrinkers, as I call them. And then we got our own inside the husk of the Jewish people, which is called the Erev Rav, which is the Israeli, post-Zionist, splitters, and all that. And so we have elements on all fronts, and we're confronting them. And Bezrat Hashem, we will get through this.
Amen.
And we have amazing offerings that we're giving up to God as well in this time of pure souls. And of course, God is the ultimate judge, and He's going to bring the resurrection of the dead, and whatever that means. But He makes ultimate justice, that's for sure. And we trust in Him. And our whole goal in this life right now is to fulfill the great commandment of our time. And I said this I think I said this when I was at the summit in Tennessee. I said, Victor Hugo says there's nothing more powerful than an idea whose time has come. And the Jewish version of that is there's nothing more powerful than a prophecy whose time has come.
Right.
And the prophecy now is the ingathering of the exiles and the return of God's presence to Zion.
Yes. May it come in mercy and good health and long life.
Amen. Amen. And it is coming, though. It is coming, and we're a part of it. And this is when we need to rally the troops. Consider yourself part of the troops, okay? Esprit de corps, okay? That's what we need right now. We need spirit of the troops.
They're not the troops, Yishai. They're the commanders.
That's right.
Which is an even bigger job.
Well, we are all troops in one way or the other.
We're all part of the fighting forces.
That's right. We're part of the fighting force. I want you to see it that way. You are part of the fighting force for Israel. You're spreading that light out there, and I'm sending you blessings wherever you are, whatever mountain you're on, wherever valley you're at, wherever you're out there, you are part of the fight, and I'm sending you blessings for strength. I'm sending you blessings to feel empowered right now, to let every bit of pain inside also give you strength to be like, I'm going to make this world a better place. I'm going to stop it in one way or another. I'm going to bring more light to Israel. I'm going to bring more support to Israel, more financial support, more physical support. I'm going to send something to Israel. I'm going to knit that sweater. Okay, I'm going to knit that
You knit that sweater.
That's right. You knit that sweater for the little doggy. Okay,
No,
that needs
the little dog
Yeah,
doesn't need a
he doesn't need it right now because it's hot like anything. But bottom line is there is
Got bigger
something.
fish to fry out here.
If you want to fry some fish, you could do that as well, okay? Whatever you want to do, there is what to do to be part of it. And it's definitely to say something, but it's something at the water cooler. It's definitely to write that post. It's definitely to find a way to connect. An easy way to connect for our work is buymeacoffee.com/Yishai or fightforisrael.org with the number 4, fightforisrael.org. And we got tractors to help buy. We got things to do. There are things to move forward. You can contact me directly, YishaiFleisher.com. Thank you very much to Yocheved Seidman, Moshe Herman, Ben Bresky, Tabitha, and David on the social media. Thank you so much for all that you guys are doing. Thank you to our good friends that are out here on the hilltops holding on to the good land. Thank you to the IDF soldiers. Thank you to the state of Israel for existing, and thank you to the God above for giving us a chance to be part of your great story. And thank you, Malka Fleisher, for joining me. God bless you. Stay strong. Stay part of the story wherever you are. Keep broadcasting. Lots of love, Malka. Thank you so much.
Thank you, and
Shabbat
shalom.
shalom.